Hey everybody, welcome back to the Time Pass podcast. This is your host, Ashika. Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. If you haven't done so already, please like me on Facebook at Time Pass Podcast. Follow me on Instagram at timepass_podcast. And check out the YouTube channel where you can watch all the episodes of the Time Pass podcast. If you are an auditory listener, do me a favor and wherever you are tuning into the Time Pass podcast, please make sure that you are liked, followed, or subscribed on your listening platform of choice wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, y'all. I will tell you that I am recording this show on New Year's Eve. So this show is actually going to premiere tomorrow. It's New Year's Eve. I'm home. I'm working. Number one, it's like really stormy outside. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you may get a little more sound interference than if you're listening to this as a podcast, just because of the different mediums for me recording this. Anyway, every year since I started the podcast, I always do a recap for the end of the year before we start the new year. And I wanted to do something a little different this year. Don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna do a recap. But I don't know, 2022 was just a really weird year for me. I feel like it was a year of learning lessons. And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about all the things that happened in my life and things that I did in 2022 that I thought would be cool to talk about and just share with you guys. And then I started thinking, and I was like, you know, everything I did this year kind of like taught me a lesson. And I think that that is a great way for me to recap the 2022 year, because I learned some really valuable lessons this year that I'm going to carry with me through my entire life now. So I themed it out, guys. We're going to have 12 lessons for the 12 months of 2022. I know, it's cute. I thought it was a cute little concept. Okay. We're going to start with January. Embrace the unexpected. I feel like this January, there was just a lot of unexpected things happening. And I think it's really important to be able to go with the flow and just do things on a whim. We went to Tahoe to celebrate my best friend Fabian's birthday. And I just remember being out in Tahoe, and I remember we met some random girl. And this was a funny story. So we were, touring Tahoe. We were walking around doing whatever. We had just had a delicious seafood lunch. So go back and listen to the fabulous birthday weekend, because I linked all of the restaurants and bars that we went to. Anyway, we had a delicious seafood lunch, and I was in desperate need for a drink. So I went into, I don't know where everybody else was, but I went into this bar, and I was like, hey, I'm going to grab a drink, and then I'll wait for you guys outside. I'm going to go get a seat by the fire pit. And so I grabbed my drink, paid for my drink, and I went outside. Lo and behold, I'm out there for like 20 minutes by myself, which I don't mind. Like, I am totally fine being by myself, but I'm like, I'm with people. Like, where are these people? And they had met a woman inside and had struck up a conversation. And so finally somebody comes out and they're like, hey, we're like sitting at the bar if you want to come inside. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I walk in. So the whole reason they started talking to this woman is because she was a podcast ghostwriter. And when they struck up a conversation with her, she was like, oh, I work on podcasts. And they're like, oh, our friend who's out there, she's a podcaster. And so that's how we struck up this conversation with her. And I don't know how I felt about her. I was a little, back and forth. It takes me a long time to warm up to people, guys. But I'm not like judgmental. I'm like, go with the flow. She seemed really nice. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know how I like you as a person or if I trust you, but like, you seem cool to hang out with, have a drink with, whatever. This woman ends up inviting us to go hang out with her and her friends that night. And we didn't really know anybody. We were just gonna like do our own thing, and we end up going. and we just had like a great time with these people. There was this man there, and he was married, but we were playing cards together, and the exchange between him and I was just hilarious. He was so funny, and I just ended up having like a great time there. We had a great time, and then we left. The friends stayed there. We went out, and we went to this little club in Tahoe and to dance or whatever, and it started off like a really slow night, and then I met someone there. Like, I met a friend there, and I still keep in touch with him, like every now and then. We'll check in, and like he'll be like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, hey, I'm good, how are you? But we ended up spending a lot of time dancing that night, and it was just nothing. It was just like somebody you meet by happenstance, and then you're just like hanging out with them for the night, and it was fun. And then we all went home and we went our separate ways, and it was great. But like, I remember those experiences, and it was a good time. Like, I had fun, and I think sometimes, a lot of times, there's a lot of people that just can't go with the flow, and they get kind of nervous. And I mean, I'm serious. Like, there are people out there that are just creepy, and you shouldn't meet strangers in their hotel rooms, especially if you're alone. But if you get good vibes and somebody like seems trustworthy, and this woman was actually from our hometown here in Sacramento, which is why we met up with her, like everything worked out, and we ended up having like this great time, meeting great people, and the whole entire night and that whole entire trip was such a positive experience. And I think it really, and I'm not one who doesn't go with the flow. I'm usually one of the people who is starting the flow. Like, oh, we should go do that. I met these people. Let's go do that. Because I just can't shut up, and I talk to everybody, and I end up making friends that way. But this wasn't me. So maybe that's why it sticks out to me, because I wasn't the one who made the connection, but it was somebody else. And sometimes I think if it's me, I feel like I'm a really good judge of character. So I'm like, okay, well, like these people aren't crazy. Trust me. But I had to trust somebody else who had made this connection. Like, no, I've been talking to her forever. Like, she's not crazy. Like, they seem fun. Like, we should go. And I was like, okay, I didn't make this connection, but let's do it. We're going to do it. And I had such a good time. So I would say January, definitely embrace the unexpected. February, celebrations are always better when there's travel involved. So in February, if you guys remember, we did Mom Does Mexico. It was her birthday. And then one of my cousins who's super close to me from Canada, it was his birthday also in February. He ended up meeting us down there. You guys, we had the best time. Fabian went with us. My mom, me, and my cousin met us. It was just the four of us, and the stories and the inside jokes and the laughter that we still get from that trip is amazing. It's so funny. I had the best time. We went to the best places. Oh my God, to go to Elizabeth Taylor's home, and they've made it into a restaurant. Listen to the episode. Listen to the Mom Does Mexico episode. But to go there, it was just like a once in a lifetime experience. It's so beautiful, so romantic. The food was delicious. And the thing is like, I feel like for my mom, like those are core memories that were made for her and with her. And even for my cousin, like he just texted me a couple weeks ago, like, hey, do you have pictures from our trip to Mexico? And I'm like, I have some, yes. He's like, can you forward them to me? So I sent him, the pictures from Mexico. And it's just like, you're making memories. Like, it's so fun. Like, yes, you can celebrate here in town. Yes, not everybody can travel. But if you can travel, like when we went to Tahoe for Fabian's birthday, that's like a 2-hour drive, right? Like, when I go, like I've celebrated my birthday in the Bay Area, San Francisco area 2 years in a row now, like because of COVID and then because of my foot, like it's a little bit of travel, but it just adds something. Like I just think celebrations are so much better when they're just a little bit out of your comfort zone of where you are, whether you're traveling an hour away, 2 hours away, or an entire country away. I really love celebrating in a new place. In March, wow, this was a big one for me. Sometimes you will meet someone and they will turn your whole world upside down. Anything you've ever known. And this was a big one for me because I met a man, and he was just traveling here. He didn't live here. And Fabian and I met him when we were out and about, and we developed a friendship. And, he actually doesn't live here. He lives in England, and we keep in touch here and there as friends. But while he was here, I ended up spending some time with him. And the biggest thing that I learned, the thing that he did that turned my entire world upside down, I think this was the first man who ever, looked at me in that way. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I think you can go back and listen to the Spring Fling episode, but it's like that moment. It's that moment that you see on TV all the time where, the woman's just doing her thing or talking and totally oblivious, and the man who's interested in her is just the stupidest smile on his face and just staring at her. And y'all, this is the first time in my life that somebody looked at me like that. And I have had other relationships. I've been married. I have never had a man look at me that way before. And I will always remember this man for giving me that experience, for giving me that moment. It was such a beautiful moment. And I was driving, right? I was in the car and I was driving, and I look over and because I'm talking and I'm driving, and I look over and this man is just in La La Land staring at me. And it's oh, this, I'm doing this. Y'all, I was so flattered, and I don't know. I'm 40 years old. I have never had that happen to me before until earlier this year. So I don't know how many of you have that happen to you. If you've had it happen to you a bunch of times, congratulations. Maybe it's pathetic that it's never happened to me before, but I think that really, for me, I think maybe, you guys, I've been single forever, it feels like, but I'm waiting for the right person, and I don't want to rush that. I've already been there, done that with the wrong people. So, I'm not rushing anything. I want to find my person, the right person for me. And I think through years and trials and tribulations of not finding the right people and being put through the ringer, I thought that those kinds of moments are just for the movies and they don't happen in real life. And then it happened to me, and I was like, whoa, because I'm such a hopeless romantic, and I don't know, it was very surreal for me, and I'm so thankful to that individual for giving me that moment, because it's something that I will always remember. April. It's good to reconnect with people. April for me was all about reconnecting with people. I reconnected with a friend who had kind of pulled away. She has a lot going on in her life. I was able to have a little reunion night here at my house, and then able to hang out with her out and about. We had a huge family wedding in my family in April, and it was the first time since COVID that I had many family members from Canada here in Sacramento, and I had my uncle and aunt were staying with me, my favorite uncle. I can say that because the whole family knows he's my favorite uncle. So my favorite uncle was here, and he was staying with me, and my aunt, and then my other aunt was staying at my mom's house, and it was just nice. It was nice. My house was the house that everybody would gather at, because I make the good drinks. And so it was cool. It was cool to just have people here, family, and spend that time together and bond. I had a great time doing all that. So I think that was fantastic. And then the end of April, I spent some time with some coworkers. I had a coworker at my previous job who was leaving the company. And you guys, like, y'all know me. Any excuse to celebrate and I'm there. But this woman, she had worked for the company for years, longer than I had. And I was there for 7 years. She was probably there for almost 10, maybe. Nobody was doing anything for her, for going away. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing something. So I gathered people together, and I gathered old coworkers of ours and current coworkers of ours, and we all got together, and it was so nice. It was a great turnout. She had her own friends come, and everybody was just, it was so nice. And I had such a good time connecting everybody and reconnecting with people and making sure that everybody had contact information for other people. Like, it's just nice to connect with people every now and then, people you haven't seen in a while. And the thing for me is I love to connect other people with each other too. So I just felt like April was really a good time to reconnect with people, and it just reminded me how important it is to reconnect with people. You know, if you have a friend out there or an old coworker or somebody who you haven't seen in a while, and we all get busy and life gets in the way, and you're like, oh, I should call them, and you don't. You're, oh, I should call them, and you don't. Just think about it. Take a little bit of time and think about connecting with them, because you like them for a reason. You bonded with them for a reason. You think about them for a reason. Just take the little step and connect. May. Everything happens for a reason, even the bad things. So May, you guys, is when I broke my ankle. And it was at the very end of May. All I can say is prior to the ankle break, I was probably running 110 miles an hour. It's really hard for me to stop. It's really hard for me to not jam-pack my calendar. It's really hard for me to not want to do every single thing that I get invited to do, especially when it's people that are important to me and in my life. It's really hard for me to stray from my own goals. So like, you know, when I want to work out and I want to go to the gym, I'm going to fit that in, and then maybe fit in a birthday dinner or birthday drinks afterwards. Like I was running 110 miles an hour. Like, there's no way that that was sustainable for me in the long run. Like, honestly, if I did not break my ankle, I probably would have had some sort of meltdown or period of just like complete, like, I need to stay home, I need to stay home. But the thing is, I know myself, like, I can do that, and I take pride in doing that. And I usually do it for like a day or an evening. But I really needed this. I really needed this. And I benefited from it so much. And I feel so much better. And I feel like I learned a lot. Now, May was, you know, everything happens for a reason, even the bad things. But the lessons I learned in June and July and August, I'm going to carry those with me forever. And all those lessons that I learned, I can trace it back to the ankle break. So everything happens for a reason, even the bad things. Starting with June. This is a big one, and I have talked about it on this show before. I talked about it in, there's an episode about death. I think I called it Dealing with Death in season 1. And so this is a lesson I've always known, but this time it hit a little bit closer to home for me, because the lesson is, let me just explain here before I get too far into it. The lesson is, pay attention to how people treat you when you're down. So in season 1, when I talked about dealing with death, I had a family member who had passed away, and I had ended up having to take the burden of the funeral arrangements and everything on myself, because his family was in Canada, and so they were here visiting. They ended up staying with me, so everything was done here. It was my first time dealing with all of that. And so it was kind of like removed, and so I kind of got to see how people were treating me, being like the person who's dealing with all of this for the first time, but then also how people were treating my family members who actually lost, my uncle is the one who passed away. And so when this happened with my ankle break, I learned a lot. So I was just saying how I was running 100 miles an hour. I wouldn't say no to social engagements. I always felt like people count on me to be there. They, it's such a, I don't know. I'm also like, maybe I have a big head, but I'm like, oh, they want me there. They invited me. I have to go. If I don't go, they're going to be hurt. Like, this is what I always like think, like, oh, like I should go because I care about this person, and then they're going to be mad if I don't go. And obviously they want me there, so like I have to go. I don't know what it is that I think or thought back then. But then the amount of people that actually came to see me while I was on like bed rest, like stuck with my foot in the air, elevated for 2 months basically. I can count the number of my quote unquote friends and family members that came to see me on one hand, maybe two. And that for me was a huge eye opener, because it taught me that I'm no longer going to bend over backwards for people who can't even make a local trip to come visit me and just like cheer me up. Everybody knows how fucking social I am. How do you think I felt being stuck home for 8 weeks? I was miserable. A little bit of just social interaction meant so much to me when my friends did it and people did it. And the amount of people who actually did it wasn't what I expected. And so I learned to pay attention to that, because if those people have, and I'm not judging anybody. I'm not like, I don't hate people now, but it's like, I was not prioritizing myself and my mental health and my time so that I can make it to every single social engagement and not let people down. And then when this happened to me and people couldn't make time for me, I was like, oh, okay, well, I need to stop prioritizing these people for a particular date or particular event, because they went 2.5 months without prioritizing me at all or making time to come see me at all. So it's more of like, understand your role in people's lives and then treat them accordingly as well. I know, right? It's the Libra in me. I think I have a bigger role in people's lives than I probably actually do. Oh well, it was a great lesson. It's a great lesson. July. Trust the timing of your life. So the ankle break happened, right? And I'm like, yes, everything happens for a reason, even the bad stuff. But y'all, I had been at my previous place of employment for 7 years, and I love the work I do. I've talked about it before. I've been in that field for 20 plus years, and I'm super passionate about it, and I love the work I do, but I wasn't passionate about that organization. It wasn't the right fit for me. And some good stuff came out of it, because I had lost my passion in that workplace. And that was one of the reasons why I started the podcast, so I could be passionate and excited about something again. So, good stuff came out from me being there. But I had been trying to leave that job for another organization in the field. And I had applied for this position like 2 days before I broke my ankle. And come July, I started getting the interview calls. I ended up, and I didn't think anything, I didn't think I was going to get the job because I couldn't interview. I was doing Zoom interviews. And, it's so common with COVID and everything, but it's just not the way I was raised. I'm like a traditional person. And so having to ask for accommodations and then having that happen and then having it all work out and turning the job down, getting a counteroffer, then actually accepting the job, it all worked out. Like, this was meant to be. Like, trust the timing of your life. Trust it. Everything happens in good time. August for me was all about, you gotta keep going. I was out of a cast officially, and I was in a boot, and I had just started my new job August 1st, and I didn't want to hold myself back. Like, granted, I did overdo it a little bit in October, but in August with the boot, I did not hold myself back. I went to work events. I went on outings. I went back out and went downtown to meet friends for dinner. Like, I started doing things again. I started, trying to get back to living my life, even though I was in a little bit of pain still and still dealing with therapy and figuring things out. But I just had to keep going. I had to keep trying. I didn't want to surrender to the injury. I wanted to get my life back. And so August for me was really a transitional month where I was really trying to okay, you've been here and you've been static for so long. Now you gotta come back this way. August is when I started working out again too, because I was in a boot. So it was really keep going. Yes, you have setbacks, but keep going. That is a very important thing. You just gotta keep going. September, take that chance. Make it happen for you. I am not a shy person. I'm not a shy person, y'all. And in September, I had seen this man before, but in September, I saw him again, and I don't know. I had a couple glasses of wine in me, and I just took that chance, and I called him over, had a very brief conversation that was super nothing, and then I took the chance and sent him a follow request on Instagram, and he accepted, and I don't know, it just kind of went from there. So just take that chance. Take that chance. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, what's the worst that could have happened? He wouldn't have accepted my follow request, and then I would have been like, oh well, I took the chance, and now we're friends. Take the chance. It's big. October. This was my birthday month, y'all. And I would have to say, a best friend is a blessing. My best friend is a blessing. I am so extra. I celebrate my birthday for a whole month, you guys, and I've been doing this for at least 4 or 5 years now. And my best friend was there every step of the way, making sure that all the events I wanted to attend, all the food I wanted to have, all the places I wanted to go, we did. He was there, and he made sure that I had a fantastic birthday month. And he did the same thing last year. And I would have to say, I hope you all have someone in your life that's just your pea in a pod, just your person that you can rely on, that's your best friend, and you know that they have your back and your best interests at heart. So yeah, a best friend is a blessing. November. This is also a big one. This is a really, really big one. You know that saying that we hear all the time? If a man wanted to, he would. We hear it and we're like, okay, yeah, if a man wanted to, he would. If a man wanted to, he would. And we're like, yeah, if a man wanted to, he would. What does it mean? What does it actually mean? And I found out that, okay, here's the thing. Sometimes I think these sayings that we hear, we're like, okay, maybe they're just full of shit. I don't know. But I actually comprehended this in November because a man showed me that he wanted to. And so he did. He's made time for me in his schedule. He did things on purpose just to make me smile because I told him that when he does this particular thing, it makes me smile. I've never had a man, I don't think I have ever had a man care about making me smile, doing something specifically just to make me smile. I think this is the first man that's probably ever done that for me in my entire life. What does that say about my choices in men? That's epic. That I'm never gonna forget that. Like that's epic. Like that's the kind of shit that makes a girl feel special. Like, sorry. So, ladies, I could say it with confidence now. If he wanted to, he would. December, don't believe everything you hear. It's just noise. It's really hard. I feel like, you know, obviously, like there's somebody that I'm talking to, and it's hard, you know, like I'm in this world, I'm in this dating world, I have a whole show about it, and I follow dating trends, and I give advice, and I'm constantly reposting things, and then you listen to your friends, and they all have advice, and sometimes it's just noise. Like, that if he wanted to, he would. Like, it's not a blanket statement that can apply to everyone. It really isn't. And what is a normal relationship anyway? Like, what is it? Everybody is different and unique, and the way you communicate is unique, and the way you do things is unique. So, yeah, there could be some amazing, you know, reel on Instagram about women's empowerment and how you should be treated, and you can see it, and then you can start to feel a certain type of way, and then you can start thinking, yeah, you got, like, I had to get out of my own head, like, a little bit with this person, because number one, I realized that I really like him, so that's one thing. Number two, I had to get out of my own way of, you know, being scared of being vulnerable with this man and being scared of opening up and all that stuff. And then number three, I had to stop listening to all the noise, because when I was listening to all the noise, I was getting unhappy and getting in my head. And then it took me a while and a lot of thinking and a lot of like, okay, what's really going on here, to realize it's just noise. Be me. What do I always say? I end every show with it. Stay authentic. And I realized that all the noise was preventing me from being authentic, because I do value people's opinions and I do value advice. And there are people out there on Instagram that I follow that I look up to. And so I do take it seriously when I see something, and I do think about it. But I just need to realize, and I think we all need to realize, not everything is so literal. Not everything translates to everybody. Everyone's situation is unique. So yes, make sure that you're not, you know, being taken advantage of. Make sure that you're not being taken for granted. Make sure that you're not being ran over in a relationship. But be realistic. Be realistic about what you're doing. You guys, those are my 12 lessons of 2022. It was one hell of a year. I can't wait for 2023. I am so excited. I still have news, you guys. And guess what? This news that I've been teasing you guys with since November, I think I get to share it. I think I get to share it in a couple weeks. Like early January, I think I get to share it. And y'all, it is big news. 2023 is gonna be our year, time passers. It's gonna be our year. Have a happy New Year's Eve, you guys. Think about the lessons that you learned this year. Write them down. Like honestly, like I wrote mine down. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up a piece of paper with all the lessons I learned for each month. I like to write things down because I'm going to refer to it in the future when I have a hard time or when I need to think or reflect. So write down the lessons you learned in 2022. I challenge you to do that. If you haven't done so already, please like me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, and make sure that you are liked, followed, and subscribed on the YouTube channel. If you are a time passer, you listen to the show, you like hearing me talk about all my crap, do me a favor and share the show with one person. Share it with somebody who you think would like to learn from my lessons or could relate to my lessons, whatever it is. Share the show with one person. I would greatly appreciate that. That would be a great gift that you could get me for the end of the year. All right, you guys, stay authentic in whatever you do. Stay safe. Stay safe. Have a happy new year. Here we come, 2023. Cheers. I'll see you next time. Bye.